New York City has a weather station with one of the most extensive records of precipitation of any weather station in the United States. With precipitation records dating back 154 years ago to the year 1869, the Central Park Weather Station is one of the most widely recognized stations in the country. If you visit the National Weather Service historical data website for Central Park, you can gain access to a historical archive of weather related information. If we take a look at the annual precipitation record, we see a huge table of values representing a month by month breakdown of precipitation at Central Park. While this data is very useful, the way that it's formatted makes it a bit difficult to visualize any trends in precipitation. So let us better visualize this data using graphs. This first graph takes that same data you saw in the huge table and plots it as a line graph using Microsoft Excel. It shows us the average annual precipitation per decade. In other words, the decadal averages of precipitation at Central Park. The solid blue line represents the average annual precipitation per decade. The dotted black line represents the trend line, or the line that best fits the data and how it's increasing. On the bottom right, you have the equation of the trend line. So why is this equation important? The fact that the equation of the trend line has a positive slope is the bolded number, tells us that the average annual precipitation is increasing per decade on average, and it's increasing by a little over half an inch per decade at Central Park. That might not sound like much, but that means that since records have been kept, the average annual precipitation per decade has increased by more than 8 inches. This is a significant increase in precipitation over the 150-year record at Central Park. This next graph was created using Python, a really useful computer programming tool that can be used for a wide range of applications. Here we have a graph of the annual precipitation at Central Park's weather station since precipitation records have been kept. It depicts the amount of precipitation that falls at Central Park's weather station each year. Unlike the first graph, this one has a lot more fluctuations because the annual changes are not averaged out. This gives us a much better picture of annual precipitation trends. Looking at the overall trend, we see that similar to the decadal averages of precipitation, the average annual precipitation is increasing, and it is increasing by about zero point 0.4 inches per decade. That may not seem like much, but that means that over the entire 150-year long record, the average annual precipitation has increased by about 6.3 inches at Central Park. If we break up the data into two halves, we can see a more clear depiction of the increase in annual precipitation. This first half shows us the annual precipitation between 1869 and 1944. From looking at the graph, you can see that there was only a slight increase in average annual precipitation over the course of 75 years. In fact, the average annual precipitation only increased by zero point 0.9 inches over that period. If we look at the second half of the data from 1945 through 2019, we see a much larger increase in average annual precipitation. Over this period, the average annual precipitation increased by an incredible 12.5 inches. This goes to show that a vast majority of the change in annual precipitation at Central Park has occurred since 1945. If you like this video, be sure to click the like button and check out my other videos. If you want to learn more, check the description box for useful links to information and articles about precipitation trends in New York City. See you in the next video.